Hi there, this is Fiona from IELTS with Fiona, and this week I'm talking about fast speech, fast, fluent, connected speech for the listening test and how you can improve your ability to decode fast speech. Decode means basically break it down to its original meaning. I decided to write this blog because I got a message. I'm not sure what your name was. You didn't leave your name, sorry, but I got a message on my daily tips and it said, I have difficulty with hearing the accent. I'm getting it when the audio is slow, but I get lost when it becomes fast. So I decided to go through my two pronunciation courses and find things which would be useful specifically for listening. Now, the two pronunciation courses are all about obviously sounds, silent letters, weak sounds, things like that, and the kind of common words that people mispronounce. But what I've done is apply that to what you might misunderstand because of things that happen in fast speech. Now, I don't expect you to adopt all the features of fast speech for your own speaking. That is quite difficult, but it is quite easy to recognize them when you know that they exist and why they exist. So I find this quite fascinating because, as you know, I've got a Welsh accent. So I don't have a perfect received pronunciation accent by any means. And because I've lived in England for the last 15 years, see, my Welsh accent would say you, but I've had to adapt it, or I don't know if I've adapted it, or just, when you live surrounded by an accent, your accent changes. But it fascinates me. It really fascinates me. So things that I might say, like I would say music in Welsh, with a Welsh accent, would be music in south of England where I live. And I've been watching a lot of Dr. Jeff Lindsay's videos on YouTube. Just don't miss them. I've learned so much about pronunciation from him. In fact, he's got a video called Why I Say YouTube. A lot of people say YouTube because of the t and y sounds. I think that's fascinating. He said Americans tend to say YouTube without the y, without the tube. And he said Welsh people never adopted that U sound from music. So they will say music and tube. And that's exactly what I say. So I find it really fascinating, but also how easy it is to adapt your pronunciation if you just copy the sounds. So I know I still sound very Welsh, but I know I can say tube and yeah instead of tube and you and so on. So I think it's fascinating because I'm coming at it from the position of a learner, and I would say learner in Welsh. I know round here they say learner. So yeah, that's what I did, and I spent the last week writing a complete guide to this. So I did a lot of research. I watched all of Dr. Lindsay's YouTube videos and a lot of other ones, but I tried to simplify it so it's only relevant to the IELTS listening test. So there's a lot more, obviously, about fast speech, but it almost won't affect you in the IELTS listening test because there are those three levels of fast speech, or three levels of, let's say, English learning fast speech. And another expert talks about this and calls it the garden, no, the greenhouse English, the garden English, and the jungle English. And I love that. And it says if you go to the dictionary, both okay, you'll find the greenhouse, the perfectly protected, uh, received pronunciation. And then if you use course books, you'll find they've been graded and scripted for you. So they're the garden version. They're a bit more difficult because they could be, higher level, but they're still graded. They're not completely natural fast speech. And that's what IELTS is. And then the jungle is real life when watch YouTube videos, movies, podcasts, people speaking naturally in the street. That will sound completely different from the greenhouse variety or even the garden variety. So with IELTS, of course, it's really carefully scripted. They will never have the speech so fast that it's incomprehensible. And my bet is that they will carefully and and clearly and they'll over pronounce words and phrases so that you don't miss them. So to a certain extent, you don't need to worry too much from that point of view. There are accents, of course, they've got variety of Australian, New Zealand, South African, Scottish. They do use accents, but again, the accent isn't going to interfere with your comprehension. Well, it shouldn't. It really shouldn't, because then it would be unfair. And the IELTS exam has to be fair to everyone, no matter where you live in the world. It has to produce a reliable standard of, Mark Hancock calls it teacherese, which I like because there's that kind of language that mothers use with their babies. It's called motherese. It's that way of speaking to babies and children. And he says teacherese is the way that teachers kind of slow down and make their speech a bit more comprehensible. I try not to do that. I try to keep it as natural as possible. But I think it's inevitable that depending on what level of learners you're teaching, you are going to grade your language and slow down. So let's